Hi, this is Mohan Gola. So today let us continue the discussion of chapter number 10, file system, and today we are going to cover the topics, that is file types, access methods, and the structure. So in the previous lecture we saw the basics of file, what exactly the file, the different attributes of file, the operations on file, and so on. So today we'll see the different types of files. So we saw that the file can be used to store the different kinds of information, and it is very necessary to detect a particular type of file for the system in order to handle that file. So today in brief we will just discuss the different types of files here and how to identify the files. So the every file can be identified with its extension. So here we will discuss the type of file, the extension, and the function of each file. So the different file types are, the first one is the executable file. The extension is exe or com or bin or none, and the function is it is ready to run machine language program. The next one is object file. The extension is .obj or o. It's a compiled machine language, not linked. The next is source code. The extension is .c, .cc, .java, .pas, .asm, .a, and so on. So it's a source code in various language, a program. The next is batch file. The extension is .bat or .sh. The function is commands to the command interpreter. The next is .tx. The next is text file. The extension is .txt or .doc. It's a textual data or document. The next file type is word processor. The extension is .wp or .text, rtf or doc. It represents the various word processor formats. The next is library file. The extension is .lib, .a, .so or .dll. The libraries of routines for the programmers. The next is print or view. The extension is .ps, .pdf, .jpg. The ASCII or binary file in a format for printing or the viewing. The next is archive file type. The extension is .arc, .zip or .tar. The related files grouped into one file, sometimes compressed or achieving archiving or storage. The last one is multimedia file. The extension is .mpeg or .mov, .rm, .mp3 or .avi. It's a binary file containing audio or audio video information. So these are the file types. So next we will see the access methods. So what are the different methods by which you can access a particular file? So mainly there are two methods. The first one is sequential access and second one is the direct access. So let us discuss these one by one. So first one is the sequential access. So as the name itself indicates, the accessing the contents of the file is carried out in a sequence. Means here the information in the file is processed in order, that is one record after the other, one after the other. So here again there are mainly two operations that can be performed, that is read and write operation. So for this again we have the system calls, that is read next and write next. So for the read operation the system call is read next. It reads the next portion of the file and automatically advances a file pointer. Means whenever you call this read next system call, so we know that in a file there is a pointer that is called as the a particular file pointer. So starting from that file pointer it is going to read the next portion in that file, and after reading that portion it is going to forward that pointer automatically to the next portion. This is read next. Similarly we have write next. So it is starting from the current file pointer location, it appends to the end of the file and advances to the end of the newly written material. Means wherever the pointer is currently, so starting from that location it writes the content that you want to write, and after writing the content, at the end of that content the file pointer will be moved. In addition to these two system calls, there may be some more system calls for moving the current position of the file pointer to the beginning or at a particular location and so on. So here this is a diagrammatic view of the particular sequential access example. So here you can consider this is the beginning of your file, this is the end of your file, and here the current position of the file pointer is here. So whenever you perform the read or write operation by using this read next or write next system call, so the operation will be started from this current position. So that's why you can see, so at the right hand side we have read or write. So here again, as we saw, along with these two system calls, there may be some other system calls also to move the position of this current file pointer. So let us consider there is one system call, that is rewind or reset, which is going to bring back this current file position pointer to the beginning of your file. So in that case the pointer will be moved from this position to the beginning. So in this way the sequential access will be carried out. So the next access method is the direct access. As the name itself indicates, the file contents are accessed directly. So how it is done? So here, for this direct access, the file is made up of the fixed size or fixed length blocks. These are called as the logical records, which allows the programs to read and write the records rapidly in no particular order. Means we saw that in sequential access method, the blocks are read, the content is read one after the other sequentially. Means if you want to read a fifth line, so you cannot directly go to fifth line, you have to start from the first line and one after the other you have to go on reading till the fifth line. But here whatever the contents of the file is there, so that itself is divided into the number of fixed sized blocks. So here you can perform a particular read operation without following any order. You can directly arrive at a particular block and you can perform the read operation. So that is what the direct access here. So that's what, there are no restrictions on the order of reading or writing. So here again for read and write we have the system call, that is read followed by a number n, where n is the block number. Means whenever you want to read a particular block, let us consider you want to read a nth block, so you have to call the system call read following the value n. Means here whenever you call this read n, so it is going to read the nth block. Similarly, in order to write at the nth block, we have to call the system call as write n. Means write n means it is going to write the nth block. You have to write the content in the nth block. Okay. So here these are similar to the sequential access example. That is, in case of sequential access method, we saw that it is read next, but here we have read n. So there we had write next, here we have write n. So by using this read n and write n also, it is possible to simulate this read next and write next. So let us see how it can be done. So as we saw there is one more system call, that is reset, to reset the current file pointer to the beginning. So for this, here if you want to implement that, you have to assign value 0 to this CP. Here CP stands for current pointer in case of direct access method. So in order to implement this read next, what you have to do is, you have to call this read, and instead of n you have to pass the value as CP, because CP is nothing but the current pointer. So here we know that read next means what it does. So starting from the current pointer, it is going to perform the read operation. So in order to implement this, so you have to call read by passing this CP, because here when you pass this value as CP, so it will start the read operation starting from the current pointer, and after that we know that whenever you call this read next, automatically it is going to forward the pointer to the next block. So that for that we increment the value of I by value of CP by 1, that is CP equal to CP plus 1. The same thing is true for the write next also, that is write CP and CP equal to CP plus 1. So in this way this direct access method can be used. So after this there are some other access methods also, like by using the index file and the relative file. So here what you can do is, so when the number of blocks are more, so instead of using the direct block name, what you can do is your system will maintain a particular file, that is indexed file, and here in this index file, so it will be having the two records. The first one we have the last name, and second column we have the logical record numbers. So based on this record, a corresponding entry in the relative file, the actual file table will be carried out. So whenever you want to access a particular record, so you should know the record number of that, and you have to specify the name of that particular author or the last name. So based on this, so it is very easy for the system to locate only that content in the relative file. So next we'll see the disk structure. So the disk can be subdivided into the number of partitions, and the disk or the partition can be used raw without a file system, or they formatted with a disk file system. The partitions, also known as the mini disk or the slices. The entity containing a file system is known as a volume, and each volume containing a file system also tracks that file system's info in the device directory or the volume table of the contents. Means in general, so whatever the disk is there on the system, the disk is subdivided into the number of partitions, and each partition is also known as a mini disk or the slice, depending on the different systems, and it may be formatted or the unformatted. And here the entity containing the file system is also known as volume, and the file system information or the volume information is present in a particular directory, that is device directory or the volume table of the contents. So a typical file system organization can be shown in this way. So we saw that the disk will be having the number of partitions, and each partition may be having the files and the directories. So here you can see we have a particular disk, that is disk 1. So this disk 1 is having the two partitions, that is partition A and partition B, and in this partition A we have some directories and files, and in partition B also we have some directories and files. So similarly, there may be a possibility that the two disks will form a particular partition. So for that we have this example. So we have two disks here, that is disk 2 and disk 3. So these two combinedly form a particular partition, that is partition C. So this partition C altogether is having certain files and the directories as a part of this. So next we'll see the different operations that can be performed on a particular directory. So these are similar to the operations that you can perform on a particular file. So we will discuss this one by one. So the first one is a search for a particular file. So here search for a file means we know that the directory is collecting a collection of the number of files. So here you have to specify a particular file name. So when you specify a file name, that file will be searched in the corresponding directory. Similarly, create a file. So if you want to create a file, you have to again specify the name that particular file. So as a result, a new file is created and it is added to the corresponding directory. So similarly, delete a file. So when you specify a particular file to be deleted, its content along with its name will be deleted, and correspondingly the records will be deleted from the corresponding directory. The next is list a directory. List a directory means it is going to list the content of that particular directory. The directory may be containing the number of files as well as the number of subdirectories, so that will be listed. The next is rename a file. If you want to change the name of a file, you have to specify the old name of a file and new name of a file. So as a result, the file name will be changed and the same thing is updated in the corresponding directory. The last one is traverse the file system. The traversing the file system means you may want to access the every directory and every file within a directory structure. So if you go on visiting all the directory content, so for that the operation to be performed is the traversing the file system. So next we'll see the common schemes for defining the structure of a directory. Means presently we are discussing the structure of a directory, and in that we saw the basics of directory. So how exactly the directory will be, what are the contents of directory, so what are the different operations that can be performed on a directory, and so on. So now we'll see the different schemes for implementing or defining the structure of a directory. So these we'll discuss one by one. So let us start with the first one, that is single level directory. So as the name itself indicates, single level directory means this is a single directory, means a single directory will be there for all the users. So we know that whatever the systems we are using, all are multi-user systems. The number of users will be using that system, so there will be the number of files that are belonging to a particular user. Means here if we have the single level directory, so altogether only one directory will be there on a system, and all these files belonging to different users will be present in that directory. So this is the simplest possible way. So through this particular figure you can understand this. So here we have the different files pertaining to all these different things, so all are stored in a single directory. So here if you have such a way, this is very simple for the implementation or to understand, but there may be the lot of limitations of this, so of which the two are listed here, that is it may lead to the naming problem, or it may lead to the grouping problem also. The naming problem means what happens here. So we know that there are number of users, and there may be the possibility that the two or more users want to have a file with the same name, but in a directory we know that all the files should have the unique name. So that's why here if we have the single level directory, all the files are present in the same directory, means all the file names should be different. Here the two or more users cannot have a file with the same name. So this is naming problem. The next one is grouping problem. Grouping problem means, as we saw here, for all the users whatever the files are there, so all the files are present in the same directory, in the single directory, but there may be the requirement of having a separate directory or the separate groups for a particular user, because we don't know how many files will be there for a particular user. Some users will be having the limited number of files, some users may be having the several number of files. So in order to have the group of files for a particular user, so we should have some other type of scheme. It is not possible here, so that is what the grouping problems. So the next one is two level directory. As the name itself indicates, two level directory means the two directories will be there here, so the separate directory for each user. So whatever the second limitation we saw in the single level directory, so this is I think implemented here. So here there will be a separate directory for a separate user. So this is shown pictorially here. So this is the master file directory and this is the user file directory. So in the master file directory we have the number of directories for different users, like here this is for user 1, user 2, user 3, user 4. So in this directory again we have the subdirectories as a part of this master directory, that is this user 1 is having these 4 directories, that is cat, bo, a and test. User 2 is having these 2, a and data. User 3 is having these 2, a and test. User 4 is having these 2, this 3, x, data and a. So the naming problem is also overcome here, because you can see for user 1 also can define a file with the name a, user 2 has also defined a file with a, user 3 also defined a file name with a, and user 4 is also having a file with name a. And similarly the grouping also possible. The grouping problem is also solved here, because here it is possible to have the groups of files pertaining to a particular user. So but here when we have this two level directory, so whenever you want to access a file, so only that file name is not sufficient. Like here itself you just consider, if I specify a command with the file name a, like if I specify to read the content of file a, so here the system will be in the confusion mode, means here this a is the file a is present for this user 1 also, the same is present for user 2, user 3 and user 4 also. The here system will be in the confusion that which file should be opened, or which file, on which file that particular operation is to be performed. So that's why here in such a situation you should know the path name of that particular file. Path name means you have to specify the along with that file name in which directory that particular file is present. So like here if you want to open this file a, so you have to specify that I want to open a file a which is a member of user 1. Similarly if you want to open this file, that is a, you have to specify I want to open a file a which is a member of user 2. So that's why we have to use a path name here. So here can have the same file name or for the different users that we saw here. the efficient searching and no grouping capability. Here means here it is possible to have the grouping. So this is about the two level directory. The third scheme is the tree structured directories. The tree structured directories means here we have the more numbers. Instead of having only one or two level hierarchy, here we have the number of hierarchy. So as a result, you can arrange the number of directories and subdirectories in the form of a tree here. So here this is nothing but the root directory, and below this we have again the subdirectories. So again below this we have the different directories. So here in this way it is very, if this is the case, so here everything is in a well structured way. So here when we have such a generalization, it is going to allow users to create their own subdirectories and to organize these files accordingly. Means here in the previous slide we saw that for a particular user you can have the different directories. Again for a particular user, for different purposes he may be having the different files. So again to that level or to that granularity also it is possible to have the different directories. So this is nothing but the tree structured directories. So after this, so that's what we'll continue the discussion of this tree structure directories. So these are the advantages of this, that is we have the efficient searching here, because unnecessarily here the number of directories are more. Like if you consider user 1 is having around 30 files, so if you go with the two level hierarchy, so user 1 directory contains the 30 files. If you want to search a file, you have to go through all the 30. But here in the tree structured, so the user 1 itself is again maybe having the 4-5 directories, and in that again the files will be divided. So that's why the number of search operations is reduced here. So after that the next one is grouping capability. So it is possible to have the grouping. So after that it is possible here again you should know the current working directory or current directory. Means here if you have the hierarchy, so whenever you have the hierarchy you should know where presently in which directory you are. So if you are searching for a file which is below that particular directory, so you have to move from that directory to the next directory. If you whatever the file you are searching, if it is above in that hierarchy, you have to change your directory to the previous directory and so on. So this is nothing but the tree structured directories. And for that again here as you can see, so whatever the path name we use, so it may be a absolute path name or the relative path name. Absolute path name means it starts from the starting, the first directory, that is root directory, till the present directory and the file name. Relative means it is only with respect to the previous directory in which it is particularly present. So again there are the different commands based on the different systems which you are using. So here we have some examples, like if you want to create a new file, so it is done in the current directory by using a particular editor. So if you want to delete a file, you can use the command rm followed by a file name. So if you want to create a new directory or a subdirectory in the current directory, you have to use the command make dir followed by the dir name. Like if you if you execute this, that is make dir count, and if the current directory is /mail, so a new directory count will be added as a part of this mail. So this is shown here, this count is added as a part of this mail. So here when you delete this mail, so deleting the entire subdirectory rooted by the mail, means all this along with this mail, all these subdirectories will also be deleted whenever you delete the mail directory. So after this the fourth scheme is acyclic graph directories. Means here in the previous discussion we saw that it is possible to have the hierarchical representation, but there we saw that whatever the files were or whatever the directories were there, so the link was only within that particular directory, either upward or the downward. But here in acyclic graph directories, so it is you can have the shared subdirectories and files. Means here there may be the files that are required for the different users, or there may be the files that are member of the different directories, but the same file will be there. So in such cases, instead of having the duplicate copies of those, so you can enable the sharing of this particular file. So that is what here, that is acyclic graph directories. So here you can see this particular file is shared by this directory also and this directory also. So similarly this particular entity is shared by these directories also and this. Here we don't have a particular cycle. So here this looks like a particular graph, so that's why it is called as acyclic graph directories. So after this, the last one is the general graph directory. So general graph directory means here we can have the cycle also. So this is similar to the previous one, but here it will allow the cycle also, means starting from a particular one you can move to the next directory also. So this is nothing but the general graph directory. So here again, whenever we have a particular directory along with the whenever we have a particular graph along with the cycle, so how do we guarantee that there is no any cycle? So again, for that the different schemes are there. So you can allow only links to file, not the subdirectories. You can perform the garbage collection, and every time a new link is added, use a cycle detection algorithm to determine whether it is okay or not. So in this way you can have a particular graph directory also.